Hey guys, it's Mr. Wishahi again, and this lesson is going to talk about multiplying fractions with arrays. Some of you guys may already know how to multiply fractions, and you may have been taught a particular rule on multiplying fractions, and that's fine. What this lesson is going to do is going to help you visualize multiplying fractions, why we do it with that rule, and why we end up with that result. Just to kind of a side note, you don't have to add this first part to your notes. Don't add this part to your notes. I just want you to visualize it. So when we're multiplying, let's say we got something easy like 2 times 3. When you're multiplying numbers, you're actually grouping. You're putting them into groups. What I mean by that is this is asking me for 2 groups of 3. So I'm going to draw 3 shapes. So this represents the 3. Okay, but it's asking for 2 groups of those. So this 2 is represented by the 2 groups. And obviously now we have 6 shapes. So this may just seem kind of simple to you, but I just want you to get in the mindset that when we're multiplying, we're putting numbers into groups. And that's kind of how we're going to visualize multiplying fractions with arrays. Alright, so from here on out, this is what you want to add to your notes. We're going to start off with our first example is 1/2 times 2/3. So I'm going to draw a shape representing my 1/2. So I'm going to draw a whole rectangle. Okay, so this represents a whole. 1/2 is actually splitting this whole into 2 pieces, and I have one of those halves. So this 1/2 is represented with this shaded box right here. For the 2/3, I'm going to use the same rectangle. The only thing, instead of going vertical, I'm going to draw horizontal lines to split it into 3 pieces. There's 1/3, there's 2/3, and this is my last third. I have 2/3, so I'm actually going to use a different color. I'm going to use a pink highlighter to represent the 2/3. So I've got all these, let's line up right here. That's 1/3, and here's my 2/3. Okay. So this 2/3, I'm going to even highlight it in pink. Alright, I want you to pay attention to right here where they overlap, where my black lines and my pink highlighter overlap. It's these 2 pieces. So that's 2 and out of 6 pieces, because I now divided this rectangle into 6 pieces. So this 2/6 is actually the product of 1/2 times 2/3, and we could even reduce that to 1/3. So when you multiply a half times 2/3, you end up with 1/3 of a shape. Okay, some of you guys are used to when you're multiplying numbers, usually the product or your answer is going to be a larger number. When you're multiplying with fractions, it's actually going to end up with a smaller product. Alright, let's go for another example. Let's do 4/5 times 1/3. Alright. I'm going to draw my rectangle. I'm going to go and divide my shape into thirds first. Just going to use the lines on my notebook paper. Here's 1/3, there are 2/3, and now my 3rd. I have 1/3. I'm going to use my black marker. Okay, and for 4/5, I'm going to go vertical. So those represent my fifths, and I have 4 of them. So using my highlighter, I'm going to highlight 4 of these fifths. Okay, and again, we're going to focus on the areas where the pink highlighter and the black marker overlapped. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. Out of, well, now I'm going to count how many pieces I divided my rectangle into. Here's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So the product of 4/5 and 1/3 is 4/15. Alright, and you could even actually do the same thing when you're multiplying a fraction times a whole number. So let's go with 2 times 1/2. Alright, I'm first going to draw my models representing my 2. And I'm actually going to draw 2 rectangles. Okay, I'm going to shade them both in because I have a whole 2. And now the way I'm going to represent my half is I'm going to represent on each of the rectangles. So here's half and here's half. And then with my highlight, I'm going to highlight a half on each one because I have 2 of these halves. So going back to the grouping, you have 2 groups of a half. So here I got 2 groups of a half. So this will be my product. I've got 2 of these halves, which is equal to 1. Because if you think about it, if we put both of these 2 pink shapes together, it'll make one whole rectangle. Okay, so again, this is just a way to visualize multiplying fractions. I'm sure some of you guys know a quicker way to multiply fractions, but it's really important to know the why we do things, because it just helps you get a very general understanding. And if you struggle with this, this helps you visualize it too, especially if you're a visual learner. Okay, you got some practice problems. Make sure you added this to your notes, and also give some of those practice problems a shot with multiplying with arrays. Hopefully you could visualize them, and hopefully it'll simplify it for you. All right, good luck.